Hi, my name is William Waterway, here on the island of Martha's Vineyard, and today my guest is Holly Bellebuono. Holly is an herbalist, a healer, and as well someone who gives guidance in one's journey as a life coach. She is able to connect with people on many dimensions. And we are here today because Holly has produced this wonderful book. And I must say, the Essential Herbal is precisely that. It gives you a lot of information, which we will cover today in our conversation with Holly. So Holly, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. It's been a while. The last time you and I were on this program, we were talking about your book in progress, your CDs in progress, and many other things that you're involved with. And here we are today, the moment of truth, the manifestation of the Essential Herbal.
It's been a wonderful journey, I must say. Shambhala Publishers, the publication, they've been wonderful to work with. They did a great job. I'm really happy with how it looks and how it turned out. Was really pleased to work with the editors and publicists there. They've been great. And I hope it's going to be, just what you said, an essential part of any person's journey through learning about plants and healing. It's meant to be an introduction to making your own medicines for gardeners and for crafters and for home health healers, families and mothers and fathers, and as well as beginning and intermediate herbalists who want, say, an extra, a leg up or some new ideas for their formulas. It's meant to be a really welcoming introduction. It's not as formal as my program that's going to come out in a couple of months, the Heritage and Healing Herbal Studies program, which will be a really in-depth distance education course. The Essential Herbal Book is hopefully going to feel very friendly and easy and comfortable. It focuses on 13 herbs. I call them the essential herbs, and the criteria for deciding whether they made it into the book or not, and that was one of the hardest things, was narrowing down the wonderful amount of herbs available to us into 13 was a really, really hard trick.
I like that number.
Yeah. It's a symbolic number in many ways. Yeah, and I liked it too. It felt really good to work with 13 herbs, even though I could have made it 40 or 50. There's so many.
Yeah.
But these are the herbs. They're very safe. None of them are toxic or hazardous in any way. In fact, I believe they're all registered or considered by the FDA to be GRAS, generally regarded as safe. They are common. They are really easy to find all over the place. They're considered weeds, basically a lot of them, or very common garden herbs. They're not on the United Plant Savers at-risk list or the at-watch list, so they're not in danger of eradication or losing habitat. So I chose herbs that if people really wanted to get into these and focus on these herbs, they wouldn't be hurting the species.
Very good. One thing that impressed me as an author and a publisher was the quality of the writing. You're an excellent writer, Holly.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I know as a writer, every writer needs an editor. And so you're sharing that the editors at Shambhala, which is an excellent publishing house, that they were easy and congenial to work with. That makes a big difference when it comes to writing on any subject.
Yeah.
Never mind trying to share your knowledge. Now the 13 herbs, they call them weeds, which I consider a misnomer, a modern day misnomer, because certainly throughout humankind's history, these were not considered weeds. The word weeds didn't exist.
I forget the etymology of it,
Right.
but weed is a really ancient probably Germanic origin word. I'm not sure, but it has been used to describe plants that basically grow where you don't want them to grow.
But what about these plants? I mean, would you consider dandelion a weed when it was harvested for food and for medicinal purposes?
That's one of the oxymorons of herbalism, is that
Yeah.
They are considered unwanted, pesty plants by a lot of people, but there are a lot of people who recognize the benefit of them, and even cultures who depend on them, like you said, for food sources.
Yes.
Plantain is one that I use in the book, Plantago major or Plantago lanceolata. Really common. It's in everybody's backyard. It's a great herb to start learning about, for beginners especially. And it really is considered a weed by a lot of people because it will grow and keep out the grass in your yard. It's considered a pest, but it's also an edible. It's also a really powerful medicinal, and people all over the world use it because it grows all over the world, because it the little seeds cling on, and wherever people have trod in their journeys to establish new colonies or countries, it's gone with them, which is a mark of its perseverance and determination. A lady that I originally, I can't say studied with formally, but she helped train me in North Carolina. She taught me about plantain and showed me that you can chew it, macerate a little bit in your mouth, and put it on your skin after a bee sting, and it will literally pull out the venom from the skin. And you can feel the heat coming out, and several applications, 10 to 15 applications of these leaves, and the sting is gone. And I mentioned that to another friend of mine who is from Denmark, and she said, or excuse me, not Denmark, Ireland, and she said that her mother used this weed a lot too, but had no idea that it was edible or medicinal, and said, "Oh, icky yacky." That's what we call icky yacky.
Yeah. A parochial terminology.
Yeah.
And plantain, Native Americans call that the white man's footprint, because wherever a white man went, of course, white man, as you were saying, when you were colonizing various countries around the world, we carried the seeds with us, and it is from Europe originally.
Yes.
And white man brought it here, and of course, Native Americans, having the watchful, perceptive eyes, saw that it was a new plant, and wherever white man went, there it was. Last night, I did a program on the Civil War at the Vineyard Haven Library, and in the arsenal, it was called also soldiers. It was used a lot as a medicine and for healing.
Maybe soldier's balm or
soldiers. Just a minute, I made a note here. It was used as a field dressing. It was called soldier's herb during the Civil War. Now, how, when applied to a wound, Holly, how does it work medicinally?
So plantain is mucilaginous. It has a lot of mucilage in both the seeds and the leaves. So if you were to say apply it in an emergency field situation, you'd be using the fresh plant. There's no tincturing involved. There's no bottles and jars. You take the plant itself, you shred it. You can put it directly on the wound, or if you have a pan, you can fill it with water and put the leaves directly in the water and simmer it. And because of the mucilage in those leaves, the water's going to get kind of gummy, and gummy is the best word. You can either strain that out and dip a cloth in there and put the cloth on the wound, and that's called a compress. And that brings the mucilage and the healing properties of the herb directly to the skin. Or you can scoop up the now wet, soggy leaves and put them directly on the skin, and that's called a poultice.
Now, is it a coagulant? Does it help stem the blood flow?
I believe it does. I don't know if it's exactly a styptic itself, but it is emollient, so it's soothing, and it's mucilaginous. That's the emollient property. Giving it that barrier makes it protected from outside pathogens, so it's got that protective quality, the same as beeswax. So if you were to make a salve with it, the beeswax would be giving that humectant water barrier quality. But the leaves do the same thing because of their mucilage content.
And you said also something just now. You mentioned that you take the fresh herb, plantain.
Mm-hmm.
And you did a little meditation in your book. When I was reading this, it's a wonderful read.
Thanks.
I mean, easy to read, but so educational. And the etymology of the plants and all the various ways you can apply them. But you did a meditation in your book here. And you talked about how fresh herbs are so much superior to dried herbs. So you can share that meditation that I read last night.
So
and why?
There are a lot of differences between using plants fresh or dried. Part of it is they're on different levels. Part of it is a spiritual level.
Yeah.
I approach plants and healing with plants on a very spiritual level as well as a physical level. I try to really incorporate both. It really means a lot to have it on an energetic plane because plants are energy. They interact with us on an energetic level. And so the fresh plant is much more energetically active, I think. And a lot of times you can really feel that when you consume that fresh plant or somehow interact with that plant physically, spiritually, or consumed as medicine. Dried plants are different. On an energetic level, I don't think they're as powerful. But on a physical level, they can be very concentrated. For instance, when you make a tea or an infusion with a dried plant, it's going to taste stronger and it's going to be a stronger tea than with a fresh plant that's going to have a milder flavor.
I've noticed that with peppermint when I collect it, even though I have to leave it steeping longer in the teapot, fresh peppermint, for fresh peppermint tea. But otherwise, a tiny tea bag of peppermint tea is more than enough. But to get that same, I need to put like a whole handful of tea leaves, fresh peppermint to get that same.
And so a lot of the recipes in the book, they specify whether you use dried or fresh material and how much of each, because for flavor and for getting the properties out of the plants, it's different whether it's fresh or dried.
And dandelion and lamb's quarter. When I was on my 7,500 mile horseback trek across America when I was living outside for 2 years, I stayed on Indian reservations, farms, and ranches, but the old folk were the ones, because I was naive relative to lamb's quarter being a food, as well as dandelion. And there were some places where they actually harvest the lamb's quarter and the dandelion and put it up for the winter in the freezer.
Really?
And now through reading your book, especially dandelion, I've made a note here on dandelion. Dandelion, I love the word, dandelion. What's the etymology of that?
I think the etymology is dent de lion, which means tooth of the lion, because of the shape of the leaf. It's so serrated.
All right.
It has a lot of fancy folklore names, including pissenlit, because it's
Yes.
a diuretic. But dent de lion refers to the shape of the leaf.
In lamb's quarter, they call goosefoot sometimes, and all these words too.
Yeah, it also it resembles the shape of a green striped maple leaf, the maple tree.
Yes.
So the same goosefoot print.
Well, dandelion, you say dandelion, one of the true great healing herbs. Regular use of this mineral-rich herb, you feel brighter, stronger, lighter, shinier. And then the roots, I didn't realize how powerful the roots were. I didn't know this till I was reading your book. Because I always harvested and ate the leaves. High in iron, which is great for women.
Very.
Great for our blood. Helps with strengthening the liver. A blood cleanser and blood building herb used as a liver tonic.
This is
How
one
powerful.
Yeah, it's an amazing plant, and to call it a weed really is
an
disrespectful.
Insult.
It really
Absolutely.
is an insult. The root is extremely high in iron. It's called a hepatic, so it refers to the liver. It's a liver toner, strengthens the tone of the liver, and also helps the liver do its job of metabolic waste redistribution and elimination. It's a great iron supplement, so women who are anemic, heavy periods, people who have just had surgery and lost a lot of blood. All of these people can take capsules or what's called a decoction, a strong tea of the root will really replenish their iron supplies.
Well, one of the things you did in the book, just as you were stating, Holly, you would take like dandelion how do you, am I pronouncing that correctly? Dandelion. I like the word lion at the end. It's that masculine thing, perhaps. But then you give us the various methods that we can do at home to use that herb as a healing agent.
Right.
So, like, go over all of those for us.
That's one of the key things I hope people get out of this book, is that you can use all of these plants at home. It's not just for herbalists in the clinic. It's not just for nurses or doctors who are studying naturopathy or really want to incorporate botanical medicine. It's a home-based healing art. So, for instance, for dandelion, there are a lot of different ways you can take it. And one of my favorite ways to use it is to collect the leaves and the roots, to chop them up really well, and put them in a jar with apple cider vinegar, because the vinegar will pull out a lot of those minerals, calcium and potassium. Well, potassium, the vitamin, the iron, a lot of the minerals that are in any plant, apple cider vinegar is really good at pulling out. And you steep them in this mason jar. You cover it. You can shake it if you want, but you leave it in there as long as you want. 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, 8 months. You got to watch the lid, because the metal lids can rust. They'll react to the vinegar. But other than that, the longer you leave it in there, the stronger it's going to get. When you strain it, you end up with a really mineral-rich vinegar that you can use in your cooking. You can use it as a salad dressing.
Oh, perfect.
You can mix it with a little bit of honey, which is called an oxymel. It's a vinegar-honey combination, and you can take that by the spoonful as a medicine. You can make it mix it with a little water, just dilute it a little bit for a tincture, and take strictly as a medicine, or it can be a food. Another way to use herbal medicines that you can make at home, for instance with dandelion, is to just eat them raw.
That's what I did. And lamb's quarter too, big salad bowls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Really nutritious and really good for you. The seeds as well for lamb quarters.
Oh really?
The seeds are really tasty and good for you. You can toast them and sprinkle them on oatmeal.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, you can eat them raw. A lot of people bake bread with them.
Oh, see?
Yeah, really fun. The roots of dandelion are edible. You can chop them up and put them in stir fries. They have a stringy kind of quality.
Right.
They're a little tough, but they have a really nice earthy flavor to them, and are nutritious.
Well, you know, people on Martha's Vineyard, you know, we do have some challenges here on Martha's Vineyard when it comes to supplying food for certain segments of our community. And here, you know, when I was living outside for 2 years and communing with so many different people in the back country, that was a good source of food. So perhaps to help local people who are struggling, it would be good for them to tap into these sources of food that are so nutritious. I understand dandelion, even lamb's quarter, has more minerals and vitamin content than spinach. Yeah, which people pay dearly for. I go to get a little thing of spinach in the store, it's $4.
Yeah, you know, I've heard that the folklore behind that is that it used to be sold at markets in the colonies.
Really?
But because it's so plentiful, no one bothered paying for it when you could go get it in your own field. So it lost favor as a commodity, but it's an incredibly nutritious plant. And I think anyone in any circumstance would do well to explore not only the heritage, but the hands-on experience of harvesting your own food from the wild. There are a lot of edibles. Jewelweed is an edible when it's about this high, and right now the skunk cabbage is blooming all over the island, and that's in the swampy, boggy areas, and the jewelweed is right behind it. It's scattered all over the
Is that right?
around the skunk cabbage. It's about this high.
That's good for poison ivy.
When it gets bigger,
When it gets bigger. All right, so I don't know the baby jewelweed.
Yeah, baby jewelweed.
What
It's
does
really
it look
cute.
like?
It looks like a little bean.
Right.
It's got these two little leaves on either side, like a bean plant.
Right.
And it's about this high, and it scatters itself. It's like a little carpet of light green leaves.
Oh, really?
And at that stage, it's edible. You can just snip them all off and put them in your salad.
And it's around skunk cabbage.
Yeah, it's in the boggy, cool, marshy areas. And jewelweed, when it gets bigger, when it gets 2.5, 3 feet high, that's when it's got a stalk about this big, a reddish, silvery stalk, and it's hollow, and it's filled with juice. and you snap that stalk in half and squeeze the juice out,
Mm-hmm.
or chop up the stalk and put it in a blender and then strain the juice out.
Mm-hmm.
And that juice is what is it's a poison ivy, not only deterrent, but remedy once you have it.
How about skunk cabbage?
Skunk cabbage is Symplocarpus fetatus.
Yeah, I love these Latin words you throw out. It's so impressive.
And it's fetatus because it smells fetid. It really reeks.
It does.
It's
yes.
a rank smelling plant, which is a
Right.
shame because it's such an amazing plant. Right now it's got that twirling, swirling brown,
Yes.
yellow. It's actually the flower.
It's a beautiful plant.
It is. It's really
colorful.
interesting. And it grows in the swampy areas. And it sends up this dark flower early spring like this, though this is the earliest I've seen it here. And I've heard that it's actually so warm, the energy that it puts out while it's coming up can actually melt snow around it. And then this flower kind of recedes and the leaves come out, and it's got these big, comfrey-like leaves.
Huge, yes.
It's generally regarded as a respiratory remedy. Both the flower and the root for congestion, respiratory dysfunction. It's an old-fashioned kind of remedy. You don't see it in use very much anymore.
So I was raised on an organic farm, and we had our own milk cow, and her name was Blossom. And later on, when Blossom died, we had Judy. But anyhow, we were 9 children in my family. And so my brother and I took turns milking the cow. We had to milk the cow in the morning and milk the cow at night. But occasionally, the milk cow would get into the cabbage patch. And the milk would taste like onion weed.
Really?
Yeah. And so, but because, of course, there were so many of us, we had to drink the milk that tasted like
Regardless.
onions, regardless. Now, I didn't realize, I wish my parents knew, I wish I knew when I was a boy, that besides the taste, you could tolerate the taste a little bit, but that it was also had benefits, health benefits coming along with it as well.
Now they were in the garden, so it was more of a cabbage?
No. These were
They were eating skunk cabbage.
Yeah, we get out of the pasture and
wow.
eat the skunk cabbage
Okay.
along the edges of the swamps
Yeah.
behind in the wetlands.
So you may have been getting some respiratory strength from drinking that milk. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. But it was fresh.
Yeah. And the leaves, I wish I knew more about the leaves. I would love to know what you can do with them because they're so big.
They are, yeah.
You would love to be able to do, maybe you could weave the fibers because they're thick and fibrous. I don't know, but traditionally the roots have been used as a respiratory tonic.
Now, in your book, you have some illustrations, and which I love the way your book is illustrated.
Her name is Janine Zlatkis.
Okay.
She's an artist who lives in Mexico.
All right.
Who did these illustrations.
And here's just one illustration as an example, and it's a pretty green color.
Yeah.
And it looks like some of them almost were like block art. I'm not sure how she worked.
I don't know how she does those. She has a lot of art that she sells on Etsy.
Yeah.
She does a lot of different types of art, painting, watercolors. I love the art that she did for this.
You know, the book is illustrated
great.
throughout, which is, again, a helpful tool for the layperson. And it's so easy to read. Now, earlier before we came onto the program, you mentioned how friends of yours are saying Holly, because Holly has Vineyard Herbs, and Vineyard Herbs produces a whole line of salves and healing agents and tinctures, etc., which you sell on the internet, you sell here at the crafts fairs, and etc. People have said to Holly that, saying to Holly as a friend, well, Holly, aren't you afraid? You're giving away all the goods and you're going to put yourself out of business because you're teaching people how to do what you do and what you do for a living. And I loved your answer. Could you share that, please?
Yeah, well, the book is full of recipes. It has more than 200 recipes to make a lot of the products that I make and sell.
Yes.
So, and I sell retail and wholesale a little more than 70 products, and
Yeah.
they are all mostly original formulas. And so people were saying, you know, you're giving away your secrets.
Yes.
But I view it as a heritage. You know, it's not just formulas that I'm patenting and trying to make money off. The heritage of herbal medicine stretches back so far, and none of us would know anything about the plants around us if people didn't share their information, their empirical experience, what they know about plants and how it affected them throughout the centuries. People have constantly been sharing. It's a sharing heritage. And to equip other people with that knowledge far outweighs any risk of my own retail establishment. The heritage of herbal medicine is really one of my favorite parts of studying herbs. As you know, we talked about last time, I've put together a slide documentary on the women, especially, who have provided information and knowledge and experience toward not only the folklore, but also the medicinal application of botanical remedies. And I've been fascinated to discover that across the whole world, in so many different cultures, I think my documentary covers 16 different countries, people are sharing their knowledge of these plants, and in a lot of ways using plants in the same manner. Joseph Campbell, the mythologist, was amazed to discover that so many myths and symbolic imagery seemed to coincide throughout different cultures who had never shared their stories with each other, but they approached imagery of gods and goddesses and even plants in much the same way. And I've found a lot of that with medicinal herbs, that, for instance, plantain, it grows in so many different places, and it's used in much the same way in many of these countries, which is evidence of its ability to heal in that particular manner. It's not just, oh, somebody had this luck with it here, but over there someone else had a different experience. It's a common shared ground of experience with medicinal plants. It makes it a richer textural experience for everyone, because we're having the same experience with it and the same healing.
What I like about what you share with us in your book, Holly, is you share with us your personal evolution as an herbologist and how you interacted with and interfaced with and shared time with these people in the Appalachia area of the South, and where especially this one elderly woman kind of took you in under her wing. But also, too, she had to see in you, because you were curious and asked a lot of questions and liked to hang out and learn. And in essence, she transferred to you her body of knowledge, which I thought was a beautiful story.
Yeah. I think, for one thing, she was probably happy to share with me her knowledge, because not many other people were asking. It's a sign of the times that herbalism has kind of fallen on the wayside in some ways. In another way, it's very popular. It's regaining its popularity. But this lady was growing up, you know, throughout the 40s and 50s and 60s, when people were moving away from natural remedies into more pharmaceutical, synthetic. This is the wave of the future, and really wanting to forget their herbal heritage. And so this lady probably had not had a chance to share what she knew, because she grew up with herbs. Just that's the way it was. You got sick, you went out in the backyard and found an herb that you needed, you know.
That's right.
Yeah, so she, along with other people who influenced me, really brought me through gardening, because I started out gardening and landscaping and appreciating herbs on that level for beauty and for place around you, but not necessarily for going in you. And then from there, I started learning about plants that you could eat. You know, having grown up in the suburbs and always going to the grocery store, you never think, oh, well, that wild plant out there could be my food, when actually it is. And from there, I went on to medicine. And
what was her name?
Her name was Georgia Gillis.
Georgia Gillis.
Yes, thank you, Georgia.
Yeah. And where is she now?
As far as I know, she's still in Sugar Grove, North Carolina, in the mountains where I live, near Boone.
Wow. So you'll be down there doing a book tour, signing, speaking engagements, etc. Do you think you'll have time to stop in and see Georgia Gillis?
I hope I will. I would like to bring her a copy of the book.
Oh, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
beautiful?
Yeah. She
Oh, she would be so pleased and elated to receive that as a gift.
She was a great inspiration for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, North Carolina is a really special place for me because I grew up there, and so I'll be heading down there. I'll be going to Charlotte and Boone and Asheville, and then after that in May, I'll be coming up here, and I'm going to be teaching and speaking around Cambridge and Boston, and up in New England a little bit.
And you're taking a very special person with you.
I'm taking my daughter Madia.
Yes, love that name, Madia.
She'll have just turned 10.
Yeah.
So she'll be my helper and my assistant on this trip.
Yes.
And she and my son Gabriel, who will have just turned 12, both really love studying herbs. Gabriel has asked for his own garden plot in our garden.
Really?
Yeah, he wants to plant his own food this summer.
Well, he may evolve to be a very powerful herbalist and medicine man.
He might. He really remembers the names and remembers the plants. It's like meeting a person, you know, when you meet a plant, you get to know its character and its personality, and you recognize it wherever you go.
Yeah, they do have an energy, an aura, and yes, you can and definitely can have bonding between a human and that life force of a plant or a tree or an animal. And it's animistic, it's anthroposophic, but it does go back to our ancient primal beginnings and our evolution all through history. And like you were saying, Holly, we know that for millennia, for thousands of years, humankind evolved with their relationship, and through trial and error, or perhaps they could have been in another place energetically communicating with plants, we don't know. But along the trail of thousands of years in human evolution, through perhaps trial and error, they discovered the healing qualities of the various plants and how to use it. To me, that's magical.
It really is. It's part pharmacology and studying the chemistry, and it's part almost shamanism, really, bringing in the energetic force and learning to listen with your heart as well as your mind. It reminds me, Anne McIntyre is a British herbalist, and I was in a class of hers once, and people kept asking, you know, well, what's the dose for this herb, and how much of this herb do I take? And she finally said, you know, it doesn't matter. You connect with the plant, and that's really the first step. And then after that comes the pharmacology and the dosage, but really what's important is that you connect and that you open yourself up energetically to what's around you, whether it's plants, whether it's the trees, whether it's other people who have information for you on that level, you know. And then it's like filling a cup. I think you can't fill a full cup. You have to be open in order to receive. Yeah,
I like that analogy, yeah, that statement you just made, Holly, resonates on many levels relative to water as well. And you use water to succuss and on many different levels, poultices and whatnot, for your herbal remedies.
Yeah, the infusions, compresses, poultices, they're all water-based.
Infusion meaning?
Meaning that you've infused the plant into the water.
How do you do that?
It's like a tea, but it's a very strong tea. The recipe's in here, but you take your herbs, dried herbs or fresh, but preferably dried, in a pot, and you pour, for every 1 teaspoon, a cup of boiling water over the herbs, and you let it sit anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes for a very mild, like a tisane, a light tea, to overnight, you know, 8 to 12 hours for a strong infusion, and then you strain it and drink your healing beverage, the water with the herbs, that combination.
And also, too, what I liked about your book, myself, if I'm backcountry, this is the book I would take. You know, let's say we have a third world war, and I'm in a bunker back in Alaska, for instance. I'd want this book.
To overnight. you know, 8 to 12 hours for a strong infusion, and then you strain it and drink your healing beverage, the water with the herbs, that combination.
And also, too, what I liked about your book, myself, if I'm backcountry, this is the book I would take. You know, let's say we have a third world war, and I'm in a bunker back in Alaska, for instance. I'd want this book on my shelf, you know, because we're not going to have access to allopathic medicine. But also, you offer in the back herbal makers, suppliers, equipment. So it's a toolkit as well, because you give us access to a bunch of information to allow people to do their research or connect with others so they can grow themselves as herbalists at home.
Yeah, well, it's these are a lot of the vendors that I've really established over time that I've found to be reliable and productive.
Very
and so
good.
I share those vendors. I also encourage people to grow your own plants and connect with them in that way. But if you can, if you want to buy or purchase the plants or the packaging materials and jars, then I give some references for those.
Well, people in urban settings, of course, they won't be able to grow their own. So, of course, that would be a useful tool for them to order through your suppliers, tried and true suppliers of repute. And again, you're giving away the store, Holly. I mean, you know, you've paid dues to acquire this knowledge and information.
Yeah, but again, it's sharing what you learn. If you hog all the information yourself, then nobody's going to benefit from it.
Well
I
said.
really would love for young women to pick this book up. I talk with a lot of up-and-coming herbalists who love plants and they love healing, and maybe they want to go into midwifery, or maybe they're going into work at a national park somewhere, but they want to study plants. And I really hope this is a good introduction for them. You can specialize as an herbalist. You know, you can be a women's herbalist and specialize in uterine herbs, or you can be a skin herbalist and specialize in topical healing herbs, or an endocrinologist herbalist and specialize in the adaptogens that balance the nervous system and the endocrine system, which I'm finding fascinating right now. But this isn't a broad, general introduction that I really hope will attract more people to not only the profession, but the just the experience of working with healing herbs.
Well, our endocrine and hormonal systems are completely out of whack these days because of the penetration into our human biology of the synthetic chemicals. And yeah, it's good that you explore that dimension in your book. But what about detoxing people, Holly, from those chemicals we've absorbed through our life's journeys?
Yeah, that's something I go into great detail about in my my new audio CD program.
Okay.
It's coming out this week. It's 6.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's 6 CDs that are all part of my new Herbal Studies program. The Heritage and Healing Herbal Studies program, it will be open for enrollment in April or May.
Here on the island?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. How so everywhere?
It's a distance learning course.
Okay.
So it's part audio and part written. And when people sign up, I send them the materials, and they will send back their homework. They get a workbook. So every few weeks, they'll complete a lesson, and then I'll evaluate that and have personal responses with them. And they'll have opportunities for teleseminars and retreats and further study. And it will confer a certificate of herbal studies at the end. But it will go into great detail about exactly what you were talking about: detoxification, study of the body systems one by one. For instance, adaptogen herbs are these herbs that have the ability, and nobody is quite sure why, we may never find out, but we're beginning to understand that certain herbs such as Siberian ginseng, it's called Eleutherococcus, they have this ability to balance basically the relationship between the nervous system and the endocrine system. And there are other herbs that specifically affect the endocrine system, the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid
Powerful.
axis,
Yeah.
the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. There are herbs that are specific to these and also tonic for them that can really nourish them and support them in a preventive way. And so I go into great detail about the anatomy and the physiology of how these herbs work in this distance learning course. For other body systems too, the respiratory system, the cardiovascular. Herbs are just, it's phenomenal how plants interact with the human body. And if you know how to use them preventatively, proactively, as well as reactionary once something has gone wrong, then you can really find that balance and work toward healing.
Well, so true, and philosophically, mythologically, just through the evolution, scientifically through the evolution of life on Earth, the plants had to create the home for the other so-called higher life forms to have a place that they could survive within. Oh, your distant learning project, Holly, when does that begin again?
I'm hoping it'll be ready by the end of April or early May.
Okay, so you'll be announcing. How can people contact you or access your website so they can be kept apprised of this?
So they can go to vineyardherbs.com.
Yes.
Or email me at holly@vineyardherbs.com.
Okay.
And we'll go through the registration process, and then you'll be sent out your materials. And I'm estimating it's going to take between a year to 2 years to complete the course.
And are you limiting it to a certain number of people?
No, not right now. I'm opening up to anyone who's interested in furthering their study. It's particularly based on formulary.
Yes.
So not only do you learn about the herbs, but how to combine them and how to put them together for specific issues in the body.
Okay. And then the 6 CD set that you have here. When is that going to, is this out now?
It's out
week?
now, yeah.
Okay.
You can,
Right.
They're available individually. You can open it up. The 6 are inside. The nervous system, the cardiovascular system, digestion, that's a huge one. So many people contact me for consultations about digestion. That's a big one.
Skin?
Skin. So the CDs are available individually, just one, or you can purchase the whole set. Or if you enroll in the program, it's included.
Excellent. And positive self-empowerment.
Yeah, positive self-empowerment. Like I said, connection is such a big part of herbal study, and it's really overlooked sometime in favor of just the pharmacology, when really your self-confidence, your self-esteem, how you approach the world, how you connect with other people is just as important, I think, for healing as knowing the chemicals in the plants. And so I really try to guide people through making smart decisions and using their imagination and planning and thinking ahead strategies. So that's in there too. It gives you a foundation from which you can access a wide amount of information, whether it's herbal or chiropractic or allopathic. I think it's a good base to begin from.
Well, you're touching on intention for healing, which is that connection, energetic connection between the healer and the plant, and the healer who is offering the concoction for healing, as well as the person being healed. And Native Americans and many people that I know that use toning for healing, you know, from India or from Tibet, Native Americans with the flute, the intention behind the toning is paramount for facilitating the healing, you know.
Yeah, so it's not even so much the sound as it is the intention behind that.
The intention behind it. And
the
you find
energy.
it the same with the...
I find the same with plants. Yeah, yeah.
So you have a book signing coming up soon on this island of Martha's Vineyard.
Yes, at Bunch of Grapes Bookstore in Vineyard Haven.
And when is that?
Saturday at 2 o'clock.
This coming Saturday?
This coming Saturday at 2 o'clock. We're going to have some samples of my products and some delicious teas. Dawn Brash, the owner of Bunch of Grapes, has been kind enough to, she's going to provide some refreshments, and I'll give a talk. We'll do some question and answer. I'll have some book signing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's coming out. I'm very happy about it.
Well, I look forward to being there. And are you having it videotaped, I hope, for posterity?
Yes, yes,
Excellent.
we are. Thank you.
Okay. No, not that we'll do it, but for sharing with, you know, your entourage of people that you're gathering about you, You know, I think it's important for you to have that for documentation. And what about your tour, Holly? Is that you're going to have someone documenting that in your travels? I hope so. I hope you make that part of your contract. That they should. That they will provide videotaping services, and that they will provide you with a copy with carte blanche use as you see fit.
I should.
That's just a small item, but I know that it would be useful on many levels to the people where you speak, but also for your own files in your journey, and to also criticize yourself. I find when I go speaking, to have that videotape provided to me afterwards, doing a TV show or whatever, I kind of watch and you grow.
You learn. It's definitely a learning process.
It is
and it's funny, I was talking with someone the other day who is going to do some filming for me, and I said, you know, I wish it had occurred to me to film me doing all these herb walks over the years. It never did. I was I've always been so engrossed in the plants and teaching the people with me, and it's such a hands-on, tactile kind of thing. It never occurred to me to film those, but yeah, that would be a good way to spread the message and educate more people at the same time.
Well, last year I wanted to videotape you on an herbal walk, remember? Except my life got engaged and I couldn't do that. I didn't have the time, and then by the late season, there were no herbs to look at on the walk.
Yeah, they come up quick and they go away quick.
But we have a long season here, don't we?
It can be.
Climate change. Now, another thing your book explores is you give us the seasons within which the various herbs grow that you present in your book, and when is the best time to harvest them. So that is excellent information too.
Well, it's interesting because, like we were talking about jewelweed earlier, how you said you weren't familiar with baby jewelweed. I have loved getting to know the plants at their various stages. Because, for instance, jewelweed is so different when it's a tiny thing from when it is a 3-foot tall mature plant. It tastes different. You use it in entirely different ways. Things like red clover, they're pretty much the same their entire season. But there are other plants that in the spring, you might overlook them when they have elderberry. Elderberry is a great example. Elderberry is a shrub. It grows all over the island, all over the East Coast, really. It's a very ancient plant. It's got a European counterpart, a cousin, and it also has a native species, Sambucus. In the spring, elderberry puts out its leaves, and pale white flowers that hang down in an umbel. They're very fragrant and lovely. And then when the flowers they recede and the berries come out where the flowers had been, the berries are used for an entirely different purpose and in a different way. The flowers can be eaten. You can dunk them in a batter and make fritters.
How do they taste?
They're good. They're sweet. It depends on the batter you use, but they've got a nice sweet taste.
Very good.
The berries can be cooked and made into jam or pie and cobbler, but they're also medicinal. They're a great cough and respiratory remedy. They're a good immune stimulator. The flowers in the spring are good for sinus congestion, which is perfect for hay fever, and people are starting to get sneezy in the spring. They're the flowers, and it's the perfect time for them. In the late fall, I harvest the leaves. And the leaves are toxic. You can't eat them, but they're excellent on top as a topical remedy for wounds and cuts and scrapes. So that's an example of a shrub or a small tree that throughout the season has many, many different attributes.
And it's different stages of growth. Now, are the leaves of elderberry, are they toxic through its entire, all stages?
Yeah.
Okay. But the berries...
The berries and the flowers are edible.
Are edible.
Cooked. You have to cook the berries or they can give you a tummy ache, but they're not toxic.
So you have to know what you're doing.
Which
is good to have a good knowledge base from which to gather your information and apply in your life.
And I hope people will take the book and learn from it, but also find your local herbalist, find me, come apprentice, spend the summer. I take apprentices.
How many apprentices do you take?
Not many. I keep it very small. Right now I have 3.
Oh my.
Wow. And I could take on a few more, but I try to keep, I want to give them my full attention. I want them really to learn. They work with me throughout the summer, the whole growing season. And I'm also going to start traveling and teaching elsewhere,
Mm-hmm.
doing retreats as well as herb walks and workshops to really
Mm-hmm.
try and help people where they're at so they can work one-on-one with somebody who can guide them through the different stages.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of herbalists all over the country who are so much fun to be with and
Yes.
so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So I really
Yeah.
encourage people to get out and explore not only the
Yeah.
woods alone, but
Yeah.
with someone who can guide you.
And also knowing you over the years, I've captured the evolution of your life and how you almost embarked and took a detour away from herbs,
Mm-hmm.
and how dangerous that road would have been for you to just drop what you are doing. The book would not have manifested, these courses, you would have been engaged in an entire other aspect in this life's journey. And so it's nice to see that the North Star caught your attention to keep you going in the direction of your herbal path.
Yeah.
What do you envision for yourself, Holly?
In the future?
Yeah.
In the near future, I really want to start offering more retreats
Mm-hmm.
and workshops for small groups,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 10 to 20 people who can really get together for a weekend and
Mm-hmm.
learn and explore and share.
Mm-hmm.
I have more audio CDs coming out.
Okay.
This set is really a formal education as part of the Herbal Studies program, but I have more that are coming out that are really more fun, and some of them are going to be based on specific herbs, really in-depth study, like you're going on an herb walk with me, to listen as we come across each plant on the trail. Others are going to be specifically for women and for young girls who want to know what am I going to experience, you know, in my teenage years, and how can plants help me with that. So they're going to be easy to hear, friendly, user-friendly CDs, possibly DVDs. I'm working with my agent for another book
Very good.
that I can't talk about yet, but
Okay.
hopefully it'll be another helpful
Excellent.
way to bring people and plants together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it being easy to read. In fact, when I was in college, I read Yule Gibbons.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed my life.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And what a great personage as well. You
Yeah,
know?
and it's that selfless,
Yes.
engaging,
giving, sharing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wish I had been able to go on herb walks with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love.
Would have been great to have videos of him doing the same
Yeah.
thing that you're talking about, which I hope you'll be pulling together. But imagine having videos today of Yule Gibbons, being with Yule Gibbons,
Yeah.
taking those walks he used to take people on and share his knowledge.
He was really into eating wild foods.
He was.
And
yes.
that's up and coming now. There's
Yeah.
so much going on with wild foraging right now. There are cooking contests, even here on the island. People
That's right.
figuring out what's the wildest thing I can eat and how can I cook it, and they're really
Yes.
having fun with it.
Yes.
I think that's a great way to go. It's different from healing, which is what I focus on, but it's connecting with the plants and experiencing something new, pushing yourself in a way that you might not have foreseen.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for joining us today in our interview with Holly Bellebuono and her healing journey as an herbologist. And I wish you the best of health, light, and blessings in your journey. I am William Waterway.